class. Today we are doing To Infinity and Beyond, seeing where Lumio can take you. This session is going to really focus on some tips and some tricks, maybe looking at some new ways that you can create an activity within Lumio. And it's going to look at how we can pull Google Slides into Lumio and use them maybe in some different ways that you haven't thought of just yet. So we're going to go ahead and start off by having you guys join my class. If you could go to hellosmart.com, you're going to join as a guest and go to class code 351595. And what's really great, oh, I'm so sorry, you guys, I haven't shared my screen. Here we go. This might make a little bit more sense to everyone. Now we've got my screen being shared. I see that I am going to go over, as you guys start joining my class, you're going to be able to, I'm going to go over to my classroom management tool, which is my little icon of the two people up there. I'm going to click on that. I see that I already have 2 students in my class, and I can continue to watch that as you join my class. I also have the ability to, in my classroom management,
see where Lumio can take you.
No.
there we go. I'm going to go up to my name and class ID, and I'm going to click that arrow. That just pushes out another way for my students to join this class by going to hellosmart.com, class ID 351595. Or if I have younger kiddos with iPads, they can join with a QR code. Or a way that I really like is I can grab that link, I can copy this lesson link, and I can throw it in the chat for you guys. I could also put this on Canvas or in Google Classroom for my students, and they could click directly on that link and join right away. So the whole purpose of you guys joining as students today is so you really get to experience how engaging and interactive this lesson that I'm delivering to you is. It also gives you the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the tools that are given to your students so that when you're giving a Lumio lesson to your students, you're able to help them and assist them with those tools that they're given during the lesson. So far I see I have 6 students joining, and we went ahead and put the hellosmart.com class code in the chat. I also put that link that you can click directly on that link in the chat and connect right to my lesson. And I'm going to keep moving forward just so I can continue to honor your time. Once again, my name is Gretchen Simmons. I am a training specialist for smart technologies. I live right outside of Houston, Texas. I was in education for 10 years. I just left the classroom about 1.5 years ago, last March. And where I was currently at that time, I was a 5th grade reading language arts teacher in the Cypress Fairbanks School District, GT and SPED teacher and instructional coach. And, you know, on my own account, I stumbled upon Lumio and I taught myself, and it truly changed how I was teaching in my classroom, and my students loved it so much, and so kind of leads me to this point today. But I went ahead and put my email, and I'm going to go ahead and put that email in the chat as well for you, because if you have any questions moving forward, or maybe you forgot something after you get off this session, you are more than welcome to email me, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you might have and support you in any way that you might need. Let's get started. Okay, so as we're about to jump into this lesson, I just want to kind of touch on those t-tests rubric on where we're kind of falling and what we want to do. We probably are somewhere around being proficient in activities, in the fact of questions that encourage students to engage in complex and higher order thinking, and activities and resources and technology and instructional practices. What we want to do is try to move ourselves to that accomplished area of this rubric, and Lumio lessons are a great way to do that. And I'm going to show you some activities that really focus on those 2 ways that you can really move yourself up in the t-test rubric. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Sticking with the whole space theme, this would be a lesson I would deliver to my students, and we would be talking about the Cold War in space, or known as the space race. And so what I basically did on a Google slide is I just screenshotted a short little article that I wanted my students to read and put it on a Google slide. And I simply just imported this slide into my Lumio lesson. But the best part about this is I can do a couple different things with this. It doesn't just have to remain a Google slide that my students look at. I can always, in the moment, go over to my classroom management tool up in the left-hand corner. I can click on this, and now this tells me that I can convert this page into an activity. So I could push this article out as an individual handout, meaning each and every one of my students are going to get a digital copy of this that they can read and work on. Or I can put my students into groups and they can work in a group, a digital group on this article. Or we can do it as a whole class whiteboard where we're all contributing onto one space together. So I think I'm going to push this out to my students as an individual handout. I simply click on that, and right there in the moment, as I'm teaching this lesson, it takes this Google slide that at one time my students just sat in my classroom and looked at, and now they can each have their own digital copy. If you want to go ahead and open up that copy of this activity, the minute you open it, your names will pop up across my screen, letting me know that you have opened this up and you are going to start this activity. You'll also notice that on your left-hand side, you do have some tools that you can use. This might be where I have you place a star next to important details, or I might have you underline certain important facts or find the dates and circle them, whatnot. You do have your tools, and you can definitely practice those and play around with those right now. I also added to this slide for some of my students that might need this accommodation, meaning they need the text orally read to them. If you go up to your right-hand corner, you'll see a little black box with a play button. This I added audio recording of myself. Now, what I went ahead is I read this whole article out loud and recorded myself reading this. So if I wanted my students to be able to put headphones on and listen to me reading it as they follow along, they could, and all they would have to do is press play,
The Cold War was a competition between the United States
and they
and
would
the
be able to
Soviet
hear
Union in
myself
every
reading it to them.
conceivable arena.
So I love that I'm able to add that audio recording to any page of my Lumio lesson. It really helps me meet those needs of some of my students. And what I like too is that I've got it as individual handouts, and so I'm always able to go and I can
Sorry.
click on.
No, I'll listen to through yours.
Oh no, I was gonna switch to
Headphone.
headphones. Yeah.
Did you need something?
Oh, I could just have it off. That's why.
Okay, so I'm going to click on the student's name, and I can go in and I can see what Christina is doing right in real time. And what I can do is I can always add feedback. I can say, great job. And Christina is going to be able to see my instant feedback right on her individual handout. Now, this is really great for me to be able to monitor my students. This would look like if I had a small group that I was working with in the back of the classroom, and maybe I had the other students at their desk working on this individual handout. I could have my device next to me and still going through and checking on my students and monitoring them, making sure they're understanding the assignment and they're, staying on task. I can always help them out if I needed to type in, go back to number 2. I need you to look at that answer again. They'll get that feedback right in that moment, and it really alleviates me having to scream across the classroom or get up and walk around and monitor. I can simply stay with my small group and have my device next to me working through that. I love that feature. Okay, so let's keep moving on. This next one is I took a Google slide where I was able to find websites, and I hyperlinked these different topics about the space race in my Google slide. So what I did is I built this slide in Google, and I did the hyperlinks in Google. And when I imported it over, now my students are able to go in and they can simply click on the link and it takes them right to the website that I need it to take them to. And there's a couple reasons why I do this. Yes, you can add hyperlinks when you are in your Lumio to your lessons. However, for me, I like it looks a lot nicer with being able to write out the description of the topic and link it right there in my Google Slides. So I do indeed like to do this in Google and then move it over to Lumio. And once again, I have the option to push it out to my students as an individual handout if I want them working through these different websites by themselves, or I could put them into group workspace and have them working through these on their own. And I can do that in the moment when I'm delivering this lesson or beforehand. But as you can see, I gave them 4 different websites and topics that I want them to go and research. From there, I would take them into a game-based activity. So now I'm moving you into game-based activity, and you guys are going to be able to see that you can start right away. And this is the type of game-based activity where my students are simply learning new things about the Cold War and space race, where my students are able to flip over a card and they can read a description. This is great for vocabulary words and definitions. This is good for word meaning. Lots of different ways I can use flip out, but this is just one quick way that I wanted them to really focus on a few really important people or places in this lesson that I am teaching them. And you'll notice on your end that you can continue to play the flip out game as many times as you want until I'm ready to move us to the next page. And as we're talking about that, let me just quickly touch on that. Right now, if I click on my classroom management tool, there's this place called lesson pacing. And right now we are in teacher pacing, meaning I have the power to determine how quickly or slowly we are moving through this lesson. When I change to a new page, it automatically takes you to the next page. However, if I wanted to give my students time to really look at those websites on that previous page and maybe play that flip out game at their own speed, I can always click on student, toggle it over to student, and now it's on student pacing, and my students have the ability to go through the slides as quickly or slowly as they want. So this would be a good point when, we've talked about the Cold War and the space race, we've read the article, we've had our classroom discussion, and now I'm ready for them to start using those websites that I linked. They're going to research them, and then they're going to move forward to the next page that I have, the graphic organizer, and they're going to start working on it. And I could keep them in student pacing so that they can move through it at ease. However, after I've given them a certain number of time, I would be able to pull them all back by simply toggling it back to teacher pacing and taking them back to the page that I'm on. And now we're back and I have control of the class and we can continue. So we started off with an article. Then we moved into that Google slide that offered the links to those websites. Then we moved into a game-based activity to really review some specific people and places that I wanted them to really know when they were doing this. Next, I brought in a ready-made resource, a graphic organizer. I simply added the text to the different boxes that I want them taking notes on. And I put the title in here, and now my students have a great graphic organizer to work on. Now, after they've done the research, they've played the game, I'm ready to push it out as a group workspace. I'd like my kids to work together on this graphic organizer. So I see I have 9 students in my class. So I'm going to go ahead and make 4 teams. And it's going to digitally put my students into teams, which I love because I don't have to spend the time trying to divide up my students. The great thing about this, if I know Tanya and Roberta do not work well together, I can quickly switch and adjust the teams to how I see that I need them to be to move forward with this assignment, which doesn't take much time at all. And I really like that. Now I'm ready to click on Start Workspace. And now my teams can go in and they can start taking the notes on this graphic organizer as they are talking with each other and working through those websites. And this would probably be another part where I put it on student pacing. The best part about this is, just like those individual handouts, I'm able to go into my teams and take a look at the work that they are doing, just like on those individual handouts. I can even add text to it and give them instant feedback. I need to know more here. So my students might say, oh, okay. Miss Simmons needs us to put more on the United States side. And they see that feedback from me, and then I can simply go on to the next team. And this is a great place. I really do want you to try out those tools that your students are going to use. Over on the side, you'll see you have the pen tool, an eraser, that heart and plus and square with the mountains. This is your adding shapes and lines. If you click on that next box, this is adding safe search images. So your students can add images to this if they want to go in and find, the United States flag.
Ma'am,
They can find, yes.
when you were doing the text box where you were saying that they need to add more here, how
Mhm.
does the student know that's you, the teacher, and not another student?
That's a really good question. So I would probably say, okay, I'm going to always give you feedback in green ink. And
Okay.
that would probably be my best way. There's not a way for them to see that it's directly from the teacher, but I would probably set that precedent before the lesson began and just saying, hey, if you ever see green ink, that's Miss Simmons talking to you on your form. That's a really great question. Thank you, Valerie.
Okay, thank you.
So take a second, look at some of the tools that you have. You also will notice you have a little book with a megaphone down there. That is called your immersive reader tool. This is another great tool that your students can use if they have accommodations that need to be met. This allows them to have the text read to them, or it can be translated for your ESL students. So take a second. I'm just going to scroll through my teams, let you see what the tools can do. Once again, I love this because I am able, oh, somebody added the dog picture. That's so cute. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a little heart by that. I'm
Hi.
able to have a small group in the back of my room. I could work with team one, but I'm still able to monitor my other teams as they're working on taking notes on their graphic organizer. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to keep moving on. Moving into a totally different subject, I just wanted to show you another tip or trick that I really love in Lumio. I went ahead and made this an individual handout, so I'm going to click Student Progress. You're going to be able to open up this individual handout. I'm going to go down to Teacher Handout.
Gretchen, there's a
Yes.
question. Can you add late students to a group?
That's a great question. You mean in group workspace?
Right.
Unfortunately, at this time, no, you cannot. I know our developers are working on a way that you can, but at this time they can't. So my best advice on that is if somebody comes in late, maybe from a doctor's appointment, you have them join the group and just work alongside another student at the computer, but they can't actually, on their own device, type anything in. Great question. Okay, so we're in our individual handout. I'm going to click on teacher handout because this is where I can take notes and I can show students how to do something. But this is where I took just a plain blank page and I added a little reading passage and I added some text and I wanted a graphic organizer, but you'll know that if you've been into our ready-made resources where we have graphic organizers and you pull one up, they take up an entire page. So what I did is I opened up this 2-column table and I unlocked it. And there's a place up in the right-hand corner where you can unlock it. Looks like that. I unlocked it and then I went down to the right-hand corner. There's a dot and I shrunk this graphic organizer that was already made for me because you know what? I wanted this all on one page so my kiddos could easily read the passage and then put the different words in the hard C or soft C column. So this is just a trick that I don't know if teachers know about, but I really love to manipulate the size of some of our graphic organizers just so I can get it into fit on all on one page of an assignment that really works for my kiddos.
Miss Gretchen.
Yes.
I was working with one of the graphic organizers during lunch, and there's like a big white space above the 4-column one, and it won't let me type in there. Is there a way to type in that section?
I would have to look. I'm not sure why it wouldn't let you type because if it's in white, you should be able to type in it.
Well, it's kind of like a grayish color, like it's a text box, but it won't let me type in within that text box.
It would let me the heading.
Yeah, it wouldn't let me put anything in it.
Okay, Valerie, let's at the end of the session, I'll stay on and you and I can try to figure that out because then I'll pull one
Okay.
up and try it with you.
Thank you.
So this is just another idea of ways you can still use that graphic organizer, but getting it all on one page. Going to the next, I brought in I want to show you what a math lesson could look like where we're really diving into what we can do with Google and Lumio together. I started us off with a fraction match, and I'm going to model this activity, and you guys can go ahead and play. One thing that I've noticed a lot of teachers like to do is they like to bring in their own images to these game-based activities. Super easy. If you have these images that you've downloaded to your computer and you've saved them, it's real easy to bring them into your game-based activities instead of trying to type it out or find. Because I know a lot of teachers like the fractions to have the numerator with the horizontal line and then the denominator below. So they simply upload these images of these fractions. And then when they're building this game, they put in them as images instead of text. You guys can go ahead and try playing this game as we go through. I do like that it offers that blue square to magnify the picture if my kids need a better look at it or if I have any students with visual impairments. As you guys are playing, I do like that Match 'em Up is one of our 3 games at this moment that offers insight into students' progress. So I went up to the top of my screen and clicked on View Progress and clicked on Show Results. And in real time, I can see my students playing this game-based activity. So now I see that 3 have not started, 7 are in progress, and 1 has completed. It's also, as my students start completing, going to tell me the 5 most incorrect answers and the 5 most frequent correct answers. This is really great for me as a teacher to see, because if there's, the same fraction that keeps getting missed, I know that I need to go back and I need to reteach that particular one. I also can see about how long it takes my students to do this on the activity and what the average score is. So this is really great in that I see my students look like they really have a good understanding of fractions, matching it up with a fraction model. I also have the ability to go up to the left corner and go to student progress. Now, this is something I obviously wouldn't want to pull up on my smartboard if I had it, but I could click on student progress and it's going to say, do you want to show this right now? So this would probably be something I would do at home in my pajamas on my device at night, but I'm able to go in and take a look at my students that played this game-based activity with fractions and just kind of see how well they did. Now, Christina did great. She got them all right. I can see that she had about 1 minute and 15 seconds. So that's great. But if there was an instance where maybe Christina missed 3, there would be a red X over here and I would be able to see which ones she missed. And if I saw a similarity, clearly I need to pull Christina the next day, maybe for a small group reteach on fractions and models. So I love that I'm able to go through and really take a look at my students and their work that they do in the game-based activity. Moving on, this is where we're keeping with the fraction lesson, and this is fractions on a number line. And when we start this, I wanted to really take the next level of thinking for my students and make it really, really fun. So what I did is in Google Slides, I built a slide that had a number line on it. And then what I did is I downloaded it as a JPEG, meaning I made it into a picture form. Then when I went and I'm building my Lumio lesson and I'm doing the game-based activity flip out, when I want to put the custom background, I uploaded this JPEG picture of this number line from my Google Slides, and it's my background. And then what my students can do, and what I would tell them is like, move the flip out cards to the bottom. And this is like a little puzzle game. They've got to figure out the secret code that I am spelling out for them. So my students are going to go in and they're going to start to move the fractions to the correct place on the number line, and then they can flip it over. So they got an M. They're going to go to the next one, and oh, gotta move that one over. And they're going to put in the letters as they go across. So they know they've got it right if it spells out the word math. So a great way for students to have ownership of their learning, and they're able to check themselves and they can keep working through this. I'm going to go to the next one. And they're going to keep going through. And I'm not putting them exactly on where they should be on the number line, but they're going to know they got it right if they spell out the secret code. And what I love about this is, so I built this number line in Google Slides and I made it pretty basic. I can put in fractions, I can put in decimals, I can continue to reuse this template and change up the secret code, and they're able to go in and they got to figure out the secret code each time I present a new number line flip out game for them. So this kind of like the gift that keeps on giving for you. And what we're going to do today is we're going to build this. I'm going to actually walk you through how I built this in Google and moved it over to Lumio. So following up with this game-based activity, because I love to always continue that thinking and follow up with a game-based activity with some other type of activity that they're working on, I decided to pull in another game-based activity, fill in the blanks. And here's why. We're noticing, especially with the STAR test, that we really want our students to be able to explain their reasoning. How did they solve that math problem? How did they get it? Well, this is a hard concept for a lot of our younger grade levels in learning how they're going to be able to explain their reasoning on getting that answer. So I use fill in the blanks because it's a great way to provide those sentence stems for my younger kiddos to really figure out how to start explaining yourself as you're walking through solving a math problem. So I love fill in the blanks, and this would work for a science question as well. I know that the answer to this is, it's just a great place to start with some sentence stems, introduce words like, for instance, ascending. My students might not know that word, but with some context clues and the self-check on here, they're able to figure out where the word ascending should go and that they can start to understand what that word means. So I really love using fill in the blanks to follow up their thinking and explain their reasoning on this. And if you're working through this right now, you'll notice that when you put it there, it gives a green check if you got it right. If you put it in the wrong spot, it shoots it back out. Because when I built this in settings, I put it on instant check because I wanted my students to be able to know if it was right or wrong right away. You can always set it on check at the end, check when prompted, but I like putting it on check instantly. So as they are working through explaining their reasoning, they're able to get that instant check. So, great way to follow up with any math problem that you have them doing. Okay, so here's what I want you to do before we leave my class as students. I want you to go ahead and I'm going to make this an individual handout. And I want you to open up that page, click on that little blue box arrow, and it's going to take you to make a copy of that number line. So I made it for you. You can go ahead and save it, make a copy and save it to your Google Drive so you have it when we start building it. And you'll notice right away, this is why I like making my links to things in Google right now, because I just don't like the looks of this. I think it looks a lot more nice and neat to make when you're going to link a website, do it in Google and then move it over to Lumio. But now that you've made a copy of that Google slide and saved it into your Google Drive, you'll be able to build right alongside of me. And then our next step is you're going to be leaving my class as a student, and we're going to enter into our teacher dashboards. So as students leaving my class, you're going to go up to that left-hand corner where there's those 3 lines. You're going to click on those 3 lines in your left-hand corner of your screen. And there's a blue bar that says leave class. You're going to go ahead and leave my class. And As a teacher, I can open up my classroom management. I can see my students leaving. I can also go down to the bottom and click on edit, select all, and remove any remaining students. And there's a good reason that we want to do this and make sure our class is empty. Here's why. If you are a teacher that has multiple classes, you don't want students to be left in your class. Think of your class code as your actual classroom. When you have multiple classes, everybody stands up, lines up, and they leave your class is empty, and the new class comes in. Same with Lumio class codes. You have to empty out your class before the new class comes in, because then it just kind of gets messy and yeah, it can be very confusing. So I like to always make sure that I've had everyone leave my class. And I'm going to end my lesson. For you guys, you're going to go ahead and you're going to go to your Google Drive now. If you are San Antonio ISD, I'm sorry, I should clarify. If you are in San Antonio ISD, you're going to want to go to your Google Drive and you're going to want to go to New and click on New. And then go down to More and click on More, and you'll find that Lumio Firefly and Word, and you're going to click on that to start opening up your Lumio account. Or you can also find it, I like to call it the waffle. Click on that, scroll down, and there's your Lumio icon there. If you are not with San Antonio ISD, no worries. You can definitely still access your Lumio account. You're going to simply go to lum.io on a new tab. And I just put that into the chat. You'll just type in lum.io in the browser, and then it'll take you to the Lumio page. You'll go to the far right-hand corner, and in purple it says Teacher Sign In. And you'll click on that, and you can sign in to your Lumio account. So once my teachers have gotten into their Lumio account, you should find yourself at your Lumio dashboard. And I'll give everybody a second. If you're having troubles getting to your Lumio dashboard, please feel free to type in the chat that you need a little extra help, and we can go ahead and help you get to your Lumio dashboard. As you guys are getting in, I'm just going to quickly touch on what everything is on our dashboard before we start building. Going up to the right-hand corner, I've got my face. It might just be a little gray face if you haven't added a picture yet, but this is your just sign-in credentials for your Lumio account. You can also join our communities and become an ambassador. Next to it is our question mark. These are resources for you. These offer training resources, what's new in Lumio. You can also request a feature if there's something that you wish you had in Lumio and you don't, you can request that. And then that graduation hat is a great place. It takes you to a whole separate training website that Lumio offers for you guys, which is really great. It breaks down how to do things in Lumio into sections, and we have short training videos, 1 to 3 minute videos to really help you through that process. Below that is a thing that says edit class. You're going to click on that, and this allows you to rename your class. So if you don't want it to say your full name, maybe you want it just to say Ms. Simmons, you could rename your class. Manage class access. When I click on that, this gives me a copy to my class session link. So if I wanted to put this class session link like on Canvas or in Google Classroom, I could put it there for my students to always access. I also have a place where my students can scan the QR code, or I can even print that QR code if I want to hang that up in my classroom because I have students that use iPads. So lots of different options. Guest access, this is where you can enable guest access on, which most likely you want to have it on unless you hear differently from your district. And then reset class ID. This is if you don't love your number combination, you can click on that reset button until you find a number combination you like. Totally up to you. Going across, you have the class ID link here once again. And then below, you can always access your Google Drive right here. As we go across to the left-hand side, up at the top, you'll see right now that it's on My Library, meaning we are in My Library and all the lessons that I have built or I have saved to my library, they live in My Library. If I click on Lumio Library, this is a really great place to go, especially over the summer when you do have some free time. I encourage you to go in here and really explore. These are lessons and activities, games, templates, manipulatives, graphic organizers that Lumio has built for you that you can go and you can look at. And if you see something you like, you click add to your library, you save it to your library. You can edit them, you can change them, add to the text, whatever you need to do to really make it fit the needs of your classroom, you can do that. So lots of great material in here. And my feeling is why reinvent the wheel if it's already there? Go in, take a look. You might find something that's already been built for you that you really could utilize in your lessons. Going back to the top, I'm going to click back on my library. And back at my dashboard, I'm going to continue going over. I've got new and import. If I click on import, this is where it allows me to start building a lesson either from existing content that I have in my computer, meaning a PDF, a PowerPoint, a notebook file, or I can go to my Google Drive. And this is where I have my existing Google Slides, my Google Documents, whatever I need, I can pull in from my Google Drive. Or I have the option to go into my library, which means any of my lessons that I've already built, maybe I built a graphic organizer 2 weeks ago and I really loved it and I want to use it again today in a new lesson, I could go in and just pull out that graphic organizer that I've already built from another lesson. And then I can always click on new. And when I click on new, this opens up my whole Lumio toolkit of all the different ways I can start to build a lesson and what I can add to my lesson. Now, once again, I have the option to do an import resource, same thing as I just talked about, or I could go right into search Lumio library. If I know I'm building a lesson on fractions, I could type in fractions and I'll see all the different activities that Lumio library has already made for fractions. I can always get a YouTube video and just click add right to my lesson. For my high school teachers, I've got my Desmos graphing calculator if I need to add that to my math lesson. For my math and science teachers of all grade levels, we have our PhET interactive simulations, which is great and super fun for our students. And then we have templates. We have lots of different new page templates. They are very similar to what you would look like if you wanted a Google Slide template. You've got the Shout It Out, which is a great way to start off any lesson or have it anywhere in the lesson that you want to get instant feedback from your students on. I've got my response where I can put out I can put my own content into multiple choice questions, true, false questions, short answer questions. And I've got my game-based activities, those 12 different templates of games. And what I love about this is I can go into my game-based activity templates and I can simply click on that graduation hat that's on every box. And it shows me what the game looks like, how the game would be played. And that's where I can really sit and think about my content, my grade level, and how I could make this game work for me. And then, of course, at the bottom, we have our ready-made resources, our activating prior knowledge, which is your KWL charts, questioning and reflection. These are your exit tickets, manipulatives. These are great manipulatives that you can push out to your students, and our graphic organizers. So with all that being said, I want to show you guys how we can build that lesson really using that number line template from our Google slide. So let's real quick, we're going to take a journey into our Google Drive. So I'm going to click on my Google Drive. And I'm going to go to that number line that I just saved in my Google Drive. And here it is. Now, when I open it up, if you open it up, I have my number line. I'm going to go over to File. And I'm going to go down to Download. And right there is where I'm going to go to JPEG image. And I'm going to turn this into a JPEG image. I'm going to download it as a JPEG image. When I do that, it's going to download it. And then you're going to be able to save it and name it number line as a JPEG. And I'll give you a second to do that. Once you've done that, I'm just going to click right back on my Lumio tab. Are we having problems? Good. I'm going to click on my Lumio tab. And now I'm ready to import that number line. But first, I want to go into my game-based activities and start that flip out game. So I'm going to go over to new. I'm going to click on new. I'm going to go to game-based activities and click on game-based activities. And I'm going to go to the flip out game, which is at the top. So we've saved our number line in our Google Slides to a JPEG. Then we went back into Lumio and we went to new and we opened up the game-based activity flip out. So now I'm going to add my content to flip out and I want it to work with my number line. So my facing up cards, that's going to be where I put my fractions, or maybe I put my decimals, or maybe I just put my whole numbers to put on a number line. On the facing down, I'm going to spell out one word at a time my secret code. Now, if you're thinking of something differently in your head that you want to do, feel free. If you are just trying to get a feel of how to do this, please follow along with me. And you can always go back and change it. But I'm going to type out math, magic. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to start adding my different fractions for this. Let me do. Oops. And you could definitely put in whatever fractions you are wanting to do. Kind of mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to add in I've got 2 more to do. Let's do now keep in mind I could always go back and edit this and change this if I wanted different fractions in the place. So my facing up cards are my numbers showing, and my facing down, when they flip it over, it's going to reveal that special code. I'm going to click next. And then I'm able to pick a theme. Now this is where I want to go in and get that number line for my background. So I'm going to go up to custom, click on custom and click next. And then, so it's got the plain background right now. I'm going to go up to that square with the mountains and click on my square with my mountains. And I'm going to click on that square with my mountains again. And now I've got the option to either add an online image or upload. I want to go to upload because I want to pull in that number line. So I'm going to select image. And I'm going to go to pictures and scroll down till I find my number line. That's indeed the number line I want because I had it saved to my pictures. I'm going to click OK. I like it there, save. And now I've got my number line there. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I can alter the way the cards look. So I can change the cards to the background. So I'm just going to click on the cards and click on that arrow. So if I want to change what the background on the cards looks like, I go to that card with it looks like a little pen on there and I click. And then I click on those image ones again with the mountains. So the back of the card's facing up. I'm just going to make them, I'm just going to type in light red. And I'm just going to use a light red color. You can obviously make whatever you want the card to look like. And then I'm going to go to the front of the card. I'm going to click on that. And I'm just going to say light yellow. I'll use that. And you do have the option to change your font color either to black or white, whatever shows up best. Once I've got that done, I'm going to click finish. And now it is adding my activity to my lesson. And I love this as it's added. I'm going to talk. I've used this where I've built some Google Slides with a science table in the background. And then I had them flip over the cards to see which one was the correct answer to the question. Lots of different ways that you can use this. But I can preview my flip out game, see how it looks. It turned out just how I wanted it to. Remember, you just got to tell your students to move the cards down off the number line, but then they're able to play. Okay, so let's wrap this up by quickly adding that fill in the blanks to follow up with the reasoning on how they knew the secret code was math magic. So I'm going to go over to my left-hand side of my screen. I'm going to go down to that blue plus bar. Click on that. I'm going to go back into game-based activities because fill in the blank is actually another game-based activity. Click on fill in the blanks. And now I'm simply going to add my text. And this is where I'm going to add those sentence stems. And you actually write out the whole thing of what you want it to look like. And then I'll tell you how we do the words. So I'm going to write in, I know the secret code is math magic because I was able to arrange the fractions on the number line in ascending order. I was, able to figure out where the improper fractions should be placed by dividing the numerator by the denominator. Okay, so I've typed out my little description, my little reasoning on how they figured out the secret code was math magic. This is their way of being able to explain how they got that problem solved in math. Right now, I could keep adding if I wanted to, or I'm going to go down. Here's edit text. I want to click on define blanks. Click on define blanks. And this is where I'm going to click on any words that I want to be out of the sentences that I want them to add. So I'm going to click on math, magic. I might click on fractions, number, ascending, improper, because that's an important word, dividing, numerator, and denominator. I'm given 10 blanks that I can add as the blanks in the fill in the blank. Now I'm going to go over where it says check answers. And I'm going to put it on check instantly. I want my students to have that instant check so they can see when they got it right or wrong. I'm going to click next. Now I have these themes that I could use, but I added a red curtain background because I was kind of sticking with the magic theme. So I'm just going to click on custom, click next, go up to that box with the mountains, click that, click on that. And I'm going to type in red curtain. Oh, there we go. I got a red curtain I could use. Click OK. Save it. And I can always decide if the white font shows up better or the black. I think the white kind of shows up pretty well on that. And when I like the way it looks, I'm going to click finish. So we were able to successfully bring in a Google slide, use it as the background for a great game-based activity that really makes it a lot more fun and engaging for the students to figure out that secret code. Then I was able to add another game-based activity to explain the reasoning on how they solved that, really getting them used to some of those math vocabulary words we want them to know. And we are going to be done with this. Now, remember, I can always go back and edit. What I want to do is right up at the top left corner where I see finish editing and it says untitled, I'm going to go ahead and title this lesson Fractions on a Number Line. It's saving my title to my lesson. Now I'm ready to click finish editing. And there my lesson lives now in my library. Now, the last thing I want to show you real quickly is if you go down to those 3 dots on that lesson in my library and you click on that, you're given some options. You can either edit this lesson, rename it. Here is that share link. I can click on that share link. I can go and I can click on this link to give other teachers a copy of this lesson. So this is a great lesson you could share out with your colleagues and show them just a different way to use the flip out game and the fill in the blank. I could copy that and email it to my colleagues or put it on a chat room. And then I've also got that student share link where if I had a student that was absent, I can copy that and I can put it in Google Classroom and my student can access that game-based activity lesson tonight at home. I can also go into those 3 dots, click it one more time. Here's that make a copy. Remember, this is important. If I have 3 math classes, I'm going to want to make 3 copies of this fractions on a number line lesson. Then I'll probably rename them class period 1, class period 2, class period 3. Because remember, any work that is done in your Lumio lesson now lives in that Lumio lesson forever. And so I'm able to go back and see which students from which class did the work. Okay, we are finished with our lesson. What I want to go do now is I want to take us and have us go back into our session, and you do not need to join my class at this point. And I'm going to go down and we're going to talk about real quickly continuing your Lumio journey. So great places to go over the summer and really start exploring. We have a fantastic Lumio Educators Facebook group. I really encourage you, if you are on Facebook, look up Lumio Educators and go ahead and join that group. This is a great community of teachers that are constantly putting questions out to Facebook group and getting really great answers. They'll put tips, tricks, lesson ideas. A lot of my smart team, we continuously check in on these Lumio educator groups and we answer questions or we give, new ideas out there too. So it's a great community to be part of. Another great community to be a part of is becoming an ambassador. And I really want to encourage you guys today to become an ambassador because you built the lesson, you've touched on Lumio a little bit, and you by no means have to be an expert. And what a great time and opportunity to become an ambassador with Lumio when you have this summer to really explore the community. And this is a global community of Lumio educators. And so just getting in touch with them, you'll get tips, tricks, new ideas. Teachers are constantly sharing, hey, look, I built this great lesson. I'm going to put it out there for you guys to take a look at. You can earn badges, and then we're going to be giving you exclusive perks as an ambassador. We'll invite you to events. We'll give you sneak peeks on what's to come. So you can either grab this QR code, or I'm going to put the application website right there. There's a link to this application. Go ahead and click on that because we've got 6 minutes left in our session. Click on this application and all you need to do is fill out these spots, and you're going to take that teacher share link of the lesson that you just built with me. It's already done. And when you get to the tell us about your why, that box right here where it says submit an example of how you're using smart tools, you'll simply put that teacher share link of the lesson you just built with me right in this spot. And you are going to be able to submit it and become an ambassador. So these next 6 minutes before we end our session, I would really love it if you guys would work on filling out this application. I purposefully built in this time so you guys would have this time right in the moment to become an ambassador with Lumio. So just start filling it out. You're going to just tell us, what is inspiring? How do you maybe plan on using Lumio in your classroom? What other technology do you love? Do you use? Add that teacher share link in there. And then what you'll do is you'll click submit. Now, as y'all are working on that, I'm just going to go ahead and touch on some extra Lumio resources that we have for you. I'll put in the chat the website, the Bitly Explore Lumio. This offers you access to our resources. We offer toolkits, lesson ideas. It also offers you a place to get to our Lumio YouTube channel. We have a great YouTube channel that gives you a lot more training videos. We've taken past webinars that we've hosted and recorded them, and we put them on the Lumio YouTube channel, so you can always go back and really see some content-specific webinars. We also have another link to that ambassador community and a place where you can go check out what new webinars are coming in the future. And we're going to have a great event coming up July 18th and 19th called Lumio Palooza. It's going to be great for 2 days. We're going to offer webinars starting at 8 a.m. going all the way to 5 p.m. You can jump on, you can register for what webinars really look interesting to you, and you'll be able to get some PD credit for that. They're short 30 to 45-minute webinars, a really great time to sit in your pajamas and kind of learn a little bit more about Lumio.